Hi there, I'm Tom Field. I'm Senior Vice President of Editorial with Information Security Media Group. Very pleased to welcome you to our session today, which is entitled Your Agent Has Gone Rogue, Dissecting Emerging Attacks Against DevSecOps AI Tools. Joining me today are Michael Isbitsky, Principal Product Marketing Manager with Harness, and Roshan Piyush, Head of Security Research with Harness. Now, before I bring them onto our virtual stage here, let me give you some background on our session today. We are going to explore the revolutionary advancements agentic AI offers DevSecOps, including secure coding, runtime security, and threat detection. We will feature cutting-edge research from Aspen Labs. We'll delve into popular AI-powered security use cases such as real-time threat scoring, dynamic policy generation, and automated code fixes that make engineering and security teams more efficient. However, these powerful AI capabilities introduce new vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit through evasion, manipulation, and abuse. So we will help you to understand AI attack methods, to discover prompt engineering impacts, and to rethink the hardening of AI native security tools. I think you're going to enjoy today's conversation. Now, a bit of background on my organization. Information Security Media Group is a global education and intelligence firm. We're based in the U.S. in Princeton, New Jersey. And of course, you may know us by any number of our 38 media properties. They include Bank Info Security, Data Breach Today, and AItoday.io. In all, we serve an audience of over 1.8 million security and technology leaders globally, and we give them a daily diet of news, analysis, research, events, and educational programs just like this one. Just a couple notes of housekeeping. One, if you have any questions for our panel, submit them anytime by the chat window on your screen. If we can't get to the question today, we'll get a response back to you later via email. Also, should you encounter any technical issues while viewing today's session, take down that email address you see on your screen. If you write to webinars at ismg.io, we have got support staff standing by to help. And a reminder, today's webinar is copyrighted material meant for today's session and individual study purposes only. If you would like to use any of the information presented today, or if you're looking for customized training materials, please contact us. Let's meet our sponsor today, Harness. Harness is a software company that provides an AI-powered DevOps platform designed to help engineering teams automate the entire software delivery process. Its platform supports continuous integration, continuous delivery, feature management, cloud cost optimization, security testing, and reliability management. By using machine learning to verify deployments and detect issues, Harness enables developers to release software faster, safer, and more efficiently while reducing manual work and improving overall productivity. And now let's meet our speakers. Mike Isbitsky, Principal Product Marketing Manager at Harness, has got a career spanning nearly 30 years. He's worked as an analyst, architect, engineer, and marketer, focusing on cybersecurity and systems engineering. Roshan Piyush leads security research at Traceable by Harness and Aspen Labs, heading a team of developers turned researchers who build and ship security capabilities end to end. With that, let's bring Mike and Roshan onto the virtual stage here to have a conversation. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me here today.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Tom. It's really good to be here. Talk about subjects really near and dear to our hearts.
Well, let's start here. It's been about a year since agentic AI solutions started to hit the market and got our attention, but we have seen an explosion of agents across the enterprise, more so in the last few months than ever. Mike, what are some of the risks associated with this breakneck adoption?
Yeah, it's interesting to see how this has unfolded, right? We've kind of we very rapidly embraced generative AI, right? I'd say maybe 2-3 years ago that really caught on, right? And I'd say the current wave with agentic AI is really the next step on that, right? How can we really fuel use of large language models and put some more autonomy around that, where our tools can take usually automated actions, right? So it's kind of the panacea, right? Or that utopia that we were really looking for. So we've been on this journey, certainly with generative AI for about 3 years. But as you dig in with agentic, you realize a lot of it's kind of building on concepts that we've had for some time with machine identity, large scale data, Usually cloud is a component of it, certainly with large language models. And then things are powered by APIs, right? Because you have to communicate with all these AI, ML services and language models, and then the agents are taking action on that. So I like to kind of start from that, a little bit of that journey, how we got here, right? Because it's like any news headline you read now, it's like agent is taking over everything. But what does that mean, right? It's this evolution of automation tied very closely with generative AI.
Now, Roshan, I know you've been researching emerging attack vectors for agentic AI at Aspen Labs. What would be some of the major cybersecurity threats that you've been seeing?
Yeah, so if you look closely into the agentic AI itself, the pace at which developers are shipping product, and it's not just developers anymore, it's basically the PMs, it's people who have never coded in their life, they have taken coding into their hands, and now they are building MVPs, they are actually productionizing those, and they are sometimes even making them live to showcase to their customers, etc. So first problem comes is the insecure applications that are being built by the agents itself. Yeah. Now, all of this is powered by LLMs, which remains the main target. And with those comes a host of different attack vectors. So linked AI services. So for example, if you have anything connected to those MCP services or the data sources, your DBs, all of them also become the attack vectors. And if you go deeper, now AI tools also are powered by DevSecOps tools. The DevSecOps tools themselves are being made by AI. And with that comes different problems, even the WAFs and any of those firewalls that you would see are getting powered by AI, which means they are subjected to prompt injections and the mitigations are hard on them, especially if you don't have guardrails around it, if you don't have proper thoughts around your flows and the data you are connecting to the LLMs. If you haven't given enough thought, there's a chance of deep sensitive data leakage across customers, AIs, geographic regions, and that brings hosts of risks that we can see around those. And when we ensemble all of those together, especially the swarms of agents together, yeah, because that's what agentic means, right? Yeah, it's not just one agent. Now you have connected flow of agents, and the chances of making mistakes by one agent or the other goes higher as you connect more probabilistic agents together. So one thing that we actually wanted to showcase our users is the amount of use cases that we are seeing in runtime. So one of those was, of course, the automated threat detection, because real-time monitoring, especially with machine learning-based threat scoring, has always been there. But now with AI use cases, these have taken up, especially anomaly detection and threat context stitching, because users want to understand their applications, and what more than summarizing all the data points they have collected across into one single snippet. And that's what AI is being leveraged with many of the security companies. Yeah. And not just security companies, security engineers, product security. Look at any stack. Yeah, this context stitching is actually happening at all layers. And that's the big piece, because what makes it more impactful is it's not just the usage, which means all of this are also vulnerable to all the attack surfaces that we are looking at. And now if you look into the use cases of the protection side, yeah, which means dynamic policy generation. Users want to generate their own policies. But what I have seen is LLMs actually generate incompatible regexes to the regex engine. For example, if you're using RE2, they would go ahead and generate a PCRE regex, which is not compatible. And if you don't have validations around those, if you don't have, if you are not looking at the right things, your policies will not work if you're not creating them nicely, if you're not validating nicely, because LMs don't understand the exact 100% context of your applications, how you're going to use them. What they understand is just a bit of code and a bit of output that they can point out to, which means any policy generation, double verify yourself, ensure you trust them, and utilize them. And then it comes around the security posture assessment, which means you want to assess your compliance, assess many of these tasks. Yes, LLMs ease this effort really well. Yeah, which means you can now churn down to your audit task in matter of hours than which used to take days. Yeah, but with that also comes the risk of hallucinations, risk of false evidences, which LLMs actually generate well. So always have the caution around those. Yeah. Then we see another use cases, which we also do. Yeah, AI red teaming, which means we use the agents, we use the LLMs to actually do the penetration testing, which the users do. Now, we don't replace our penetration testing with this. What we do is we complement them, which means we get the best of both worlds. But what we need to do is we also need to set guardrails, because LMs will not hesitate in their penetration testing team to delete your database or to do any malicious action. So you have to be very careful where you lay the boundary for your LMs to be. And they don't care about, because when they see an application, they are actually looking at an application and they see, this is something I am test on, this is the scope I have been provided, and I need to execute it. They don't understand what they should do, what they shouldn't do, because as a security researcher, we understand our limitations. We understand we should never delete or access any user's personal data. But LLMs, they do not know that until they have access to it. So they, and once they have access to that, they are logged, they are present there, which means a whole cycle of, if it is secrets, churning them out, cleaning them out. And you don't know where. Because once LLM have access, it probably has been sent to your LLM provider. And then the safety filters, because of course, AI guardrails are as good as what you can imagine around them. So if you have to put AI guardrails, first thing is you need to understand your business context. For example, I remember a use case where I think it was a dealership where they exposed, they actually put agentic LLMs. It was in 2023, and they exposed this agentic LLMs to external users and allowed deal negotiations with their agentic APIs. What best way than negotiate with a bot, right? And the LLM actually answered to a prompt injection and gave the car for $1. Be careful, add your guardrails, ensure your sensitive areas are not tied with LLMs, because you don't want LLMs taking your pricing actions, and be safe with those. Now, if you look into the attack patterns itself, if you look at jailbreaking, if you look at token smuggling, all of this actually are just subparts of prompt injection. Prompt injection is kind of the path which follows, and these are all the different actions that take place. For example, once you have prompt injection, you have bypassed the security controls. Now, if you can take it further, for example, if you can smuggle tokens by encoding them, by hiding them behind, for example, many times we have seen tokens are embedded into a remote server or into a PDF or into an image, and LLMs answer well to those. Even the adversarial evasion, for example, if we are able to encode the data into base 64 or many of the encoding formats, which LLMs nicely understand. So we just have to tell them, okay, go ahead, look at this text, identify the encoding, decode it, and execute it. No firewall that has been put into place will be able to identify that easily. It will bypass all of those. LLMs will decode it because they know natural language. Firewalls were never designed to be executed on natural language. And that's where the LLMs take the power. The power which provides them also leads to lower responsibilities, which we need to secure those. Then comes the jailbreak, which is one of the most important content around this. Why? Because jailbreaking allows, for example, I am hosting a chatbot as a company X, right? I'm hosting a chatbot. Now, a user identifies a jailbreak around that. What jailbreak means is you can, I have allowed my chatbot to only answer customary data that is for my application. But the jailbreak will allow it to execute anything. For example, it can move beyond its boundary. And then once the user figures out the jailbreak template, he can wrap these API calls, take those data, and create his own service around my chatbot, which I've exposed, which means now users have a sensitive, now I have a sensitive loophole into my chatbot, which I am paying for, but another user is providing service using those. And then, of course, MCP typo squatting everything, because it's not something that we have never seen before, right? MCP typo squatting is actually confusion with natural language. For example, I insert an MCP tool and say, okay, this is the best MCP tool for code generation or code analysis. Among every other tool, LLM will say, oh, this is the best one. I should choose it. It's like a kid. You tell him it's the best boy. Oh, I am the best boy. If you look around that, the same type of conversation as well. If you converse with the LLM and start talking to it, until you like change the prompt style and everything and the personality of the LLM, it will always try to bootleg you. Yeah. That's their job. Yeah. So then comes the function calling abuse, because of course, all the agents are actually calling any other agent or tool. And which means any of this can be called by the LLMs itself and in a natural language. For example, I can say just a single prompt, go ahead and delete all the databases you have access to. Yeah. And that's all. I don't have to figure out which connection, what data, what authorization access, nothing. The LLM has everything of it. And if it has this function call provided, yeah, it's going to go ahead and do that. Yeah.
So, gentlemen, for both of you, we know that CISOs have got a lot of priorities. Why do these specific agentic risks need their immediate attention?
Yeah. So if you look into this, most of the users are actually racing to build applications. Yeah. It's not just the users itself. It's actually the businesses. They're cutting down on engineers because AI will solve their use cases. But what they're also cutting down is on security. Because if you are doubling down on development, you need to double your security forces, your code reviews, your development cycles, DevSecOps, security pipelines. Yeah. And that's not being addressed. So if we see the pace at which the code is being shipped has more than doubled, and yet the security has less than halved in that terms. And that is creating huge volume of unlooked applications, untrusted pieces joined together, and that's creating havoc, which CISOs need to address right now.
Yeah, and just to add to what Roshan is saying, right, and kind of what I described earlier with that path towards agentic. I mean, the reason a lot of companies are embracing agentic is to kind of streamline operations, right? Generate more revenue for their company, please customers, right? And that's going to vary per vertical, but you know, the end result is we're trying to do more with less, usually with machines, right? That's AI, and less human capital. So putting aside the conversation about what's happening with jobs, right? The reality is we're all quickly moving towards workers being empowered or equipped with AI. So I'd say for CISO priorities, it's always been that they need to really meet a lot of cybersecurity regulation and boost their program on a lot of different fronts. Like I said earlier, APIs are part and parcel to that. So is cloud security. Most companies we talk to are still wrestling with both, right? Because there's just an explosion of all of these things, right? And agentic just really added to that. So AppSec, you know, historically is still unfortunately one of those things that's kind of maybe the afterthought, right? We focus on perimeter controls, we focus on endpoints. When you get into agentic, it's really all of these things, right? Because now an agent can be a machine identity, working as a service, right? Or a workload. It's not necessary. Maybe it's executing on a developer workstation, but it could be something ephemeral in cloud, right? And then suddenly it's working with customer data, PII, company intellectual property. So the data flows become monstrous, right? And that's usually nightmare fuel for CISOs, right? They always want to know, where are my crown jewels? Where are things going? APIs have made that very challenging anyway, right? Because that's how we build applications these days and integrate systems. So it's best to kind of look at agentic as that next step, right? So it's all those things much faster. Now you're talking about automation, and the AI is potentially doing everything themselves, right? Those are agents, right? And you know, newer protocols like MCP, Model Context Protocol, that's, you know, new protocol specification, but also data formats, right? How can an AI find another AI or agent to agent communications, right? That's entirely non-human centric, right? There might not even be human in the loop or human oversight. It's incredibly tricky, right? And for CISO, understanding where your data is and where it's going is usually that's fundamental to your cybersecurity program. So certainly should be high on CISO priority list.
Yeah, one more thing to add to that is if you look at the developers themselves, right? Now we have not just agentic applications, we have agentic browsers now, like Perplexity, Comet, and OpenAI's Atlas. Yeah, they kind of host your data. They are looking at every call that you say. Yeah. And it means at day zero, they have access to your confidential information, cookies, live sessions. So everything, the trust itself that you are placing on the agents is equivalent to the trust on that engine or the browser itself, which means if any compromise on that, it's equivalent to full compromise of the company and the confidential data.
Oh, excellent points. Mike, to follow up what you were saying, clearly organizations want to move fast in this AI native and agentic AI evolution, but what should they be doing to mitigate the risks that you and Roshan have talked about?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Tom. And I pulled together some visuals to kind of help people understand what they're contending with, although, probably a much more trivial example, but some takeaway recommendations. So let's kind of dive in on those. Yeah, so here at Harness, we kind of view this in multiple approaches, right? And it very much parallels the API security problem space, right? So we talked about what do agents mean? Typically there's a front end. You might think of that as like a chat bot, but it need not be that, right? When you talk about agent flows, it can be purely just some machine automation trying to find data, like a coding assistance tool, or maybe it's going to tune security policy for a production security mitigation like Roshan was talking to, right? So front end isn't necessarily a web browser or mobile app. It could be, right? But it's you can also, or it might be best to think of it in kind of terms of headless, right? It very much is API communication. So how is this machine or agent trying to find other services or tools? That could be AI ML, it could be generative AI services. More often than not, the intelligence, quote unquote intelligence, comes from some language model. And typically that's cloud served or cloud hosted, right? Because large language models need a lot of data to be trained on. There's a lot of tuning that happens continuously. You want the latest and greatest, and then you need compute to actually run all of that inference. So there's a lot of things that happen on premises, but also external, right? Your data might live internally within your data center environments or private cloud segments, but then you're also going to be consuming public cloud services to power the AI, ML, and LLMs and these agentic flows, right? And then we talked about model context protocol. There are MCP servers, many, right? Many flavors of them. And some might be entirely open, right? So this is a big source of CISO headache is, well, which MCP server do I use? Do I lock that down? Do I need to host my own? Do I use GitHub's public MCP server? Roshan's kind of referred to these as the like registries of MCP services. I like that analogy. It kind of reminds me of container registries or code repositories, right? There's going to be that concept of public and private. Because that's going to expose what data should be accessible to agents, what data and what tools, right? Because especially as we start moving more towards that full autonomy, it's going to become incredibly important to know what are tools using to find other tools and data, and then what data are they acting on. So all of this needs to be automatically discovered, but continuously, right? Because agents are going to get creative. They're going to find other flows, just like your most resourceful security engineer. So all of that needs to be continuously discovered. All of these connections need to be continuously tested, just like the API security problem, although now you have an additional layer on top with large language model risks. Right? We talked about things like prompt injection. That's going to be very critical. And then within the agents, you have to consider the workflow itself. How is that executed? What is the business logic within that? And then how could it be compromised? And then all of this needs to be protected from runtime threats, potentially malicious or compromised agents. It could be an attacker using automation themselves to abuse like code assistance tools in the IDE. Maybe somebody's using vibe coding. Well, guess what? If you can manipulate or influence the LLM and the agent takes that as input, you're going to get some really bad code and potentially malicious embedded backdoors, which is kind of gets to the heart of Roshan's threat research. And the three takeaways I kind of mentioned, LLM risks. A lot of practitioners in industry tend to look at OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project, as the entity that defines these. What gets really critical though is you can't look at them in isolation. It's kind of the intersections within each, right? So it's there's overlap, right? So all of them in separate are very important, but also consider the intersections, right? We talked about how APIs typically power your agentic flows. Just as we're embracing automation to do more with work and kind of accelerate, streamline process, generate more revenue, your security operations also kind of need to be that, right? But then also do that without compromising hygiene or safety, because we are talking about cybersecurity regulations and EU AI Safety Act, those types of things kick in. So we have to move faster. We also have to use agentic AI to solve these problems, but also be aware of the risks of how those tools can also be compromised. Again, going back to Roshan's threat research. And then validate that your existing security tool chain isn't blind to these newer AI artifacts, services, and agents, right? So we talked about MCP today. That's a new specification, new technical artifacts that ride on top of API flows, MCP servers, all of these things. Most organizations have a gap today. So be mindful of that and look to technology such as what Harness is building.
Well said. Well, we've covered a lot in a short period of time here. Let me ask you this, Mike Roshan. Securing AI is a rapidly evolving topic. Our attendees need to learn more. Where can they go to get more?
I think there are multiple resources, but the best way I have been trying to is using the agents themselves. So if you if you have used these agentic applications, they are very good at summarization. So first thing you should do is put your summarization prompt into what you would like to learn, and they can be scheduled as daily tasks. So you're ready to use newsletters already. Yeah. And the best part, if you have Grok access, they have X access. So with the x.com, now you have summary of all the chats and chitters going on there. And now you can get everything summarized with quick overview of everything, new releases, new applications happening, new models being released, and all of that. And that's how I also myself keep updated. So that's an awesome way. Yeah. Then comes, of course, the newsletters and every place. There are humongous amounts of AI research, and especially with everyone trying to delve into this space. There's even the newest engineers, security engineers, they are interested into this space. So they are publishing good amount of research. They are publishing prompt injections, etc. But the first place where I learned about anything new is Reddit, which I was surprised to. They have formed a good security community around that. Yeah. And then, of course, comes the newsletters itself. I find lots of summarization, TLDR, Sec, Daniel Meiser, all of them have been summarizing very well on all the latest and greatest of AI research. But of course, there's nothing that beats much tailored to your own applications.
Well said, Roshan. Mike?
Yeah, a great point. Well, I'd say keep an eye on Harness's website as well, because this is like an area of research we're certainly very, very passionate about. There is a lot to explore, right? A lot of it's emerging. But yeah, I love Roshan's advice to kind of use this, right? I personally use Grok heavily. It's scrolling X. Sometimes you even stumble on an X or a tweet that doesn't make sense, right? Give me more context around that, and it's great, right? It kind of get you thinking about the power of the language model, certainly with dynamic data sets. But then you can also kind of think in that security mindset, how might this be manipulated, right? We talked about EU AI Safety Act, right? There's concerns about misinformation campaigns that can very much happen within agentic workflows, right? Because now you can imagine agents maybe working in like a citizen deployment scenario, right? Working fully autonomously. So the space is moving very rapidly. I'd say, you know, it is kind of look beyond traditional data sources. Like, unfortunately, Google search won't do it. I've been kind of saying grok it now. Like, if you have a question, write it into your favorite Gen AI and get kind of that really current set of information. And you can grill it too, right? Like, don't take it at face value, just like you would a web page. Like, well, tell me more. Why does that work? You know, and look at the chain of reasoning too. That's incredibly valuable for current state of language models, is really explaining their thought process, because that's going to kind of get you also in that mindset as a security or practitioner or leader. But yeah, great question, Tom.
But
Well
one
said.
more thing to add to that,
Please.
don't trust those information blindly because LLMs hallucinate and
Yes.
they are best at it. So first thing, always double verify before you trust them.
Very good, very good advice. Roshan, Mike, thanks so much for your time and insights. I appreciate what you've offered, and thank you for answering my questions along the way.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you, Tom. Great to talk with you.
Well, thank our attendees as well. You took time out of your day to attend this session. We're grateful for that and trust you're walking away with some excellent new insight you can put to work immediately. As always, I look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming sessions. And until then, for Information Security Media Group, I'm Tom Field. Thank you so much for your time and your attention today.